J.D. Vance has a serious warning for Europe and the direction many countries are heading. At a recent speech, Vice President J.D. Vance decided to share some of his concerns with the crowd, including many prominent and influential political figures. It appears that he did this to look out for these countries rather than simply criticizing them. With the direction that the new Trump administration is heading, it is understandable that whilst they are mostly taking an America-first approach, they are still aligned with many other countries and are facing many challenges that are still new and on the rise across many countries. One of these issues is freedom of speech. Whilst America has the First Amendment of the Constitution to rely on, most other countries have less laws protecting freedom of speech, and those which do can often be overridden by other, more subjective laws around the issue. It does appear that in recent history, justifications from those wanting to censor speech and opinions have become increasingly subjective. When bringing this up, J.D. Vance made it clear that this increase of censorship and drift from prioritizing free speech is a serious threat to democracy. Vance also highlighted an increasingly common tactic that many looking to suppress the speech of others have been using to justify these actions. This is to refer to their speech, opinions, and beliefs as misinformation or disinformation as a way to invalidate them. Of course, whilst this may be the case at times, it is often not and can simply be used as a tactic to avoid real conversations and debates that may perhaps not play out as well as these individuals would like. By invalidating others and their opinions in this way, they may not have to engage in the necessary conversations that would otherwise be necessary to get to the bottom of issues or from both sides to see where the other are coming from, which can be useful for all involved to find some middle ground. If individuals or groups truly believe that their views are more correct or justified than others, then they should be willing to engage in open and honest conversations to share them rather than preventing others from being able to speak up for themselves. Vance also made it clear that America is guilty of this too. For example, many social media companies that are located in America have banned individuals and manipulated their own algorithms due to political biases that their companies and employees align with. This can therefore tamper with broader political demographics, as whilst one side can openly express themselves and have their beliefs supported, those with opposing beliefs will not be given the same opportunity to express themselves to help balance the discourse on any political or even non-political issue. As open discourse is so fundamental to democracy, it is no surprise that Vance has found such concern with this widespread and growing issue, especially as these have been widely recognized values that many countries have shared and recognized in one another for a long time. In a bold move, Vance also gave examples of different countries, including Germany, Sweden, and the United Kingdom, violating these once shared values around free speech and expression. Whilst highlighting these examples to some of their countries' own leaders may seem provoking, it is clear to many that this is a necessary step in acknowledging the issue and facing the reality of what is happening. Whilst turning a blind eye to these issues, it will almost inevitably only lead to large and more abundant issues in the future. Here is a clip from the speech.
And unfortunately, when I look at Europe today, it's sometimes not so clear what happened to some of the Cold War's winners. I look to Brussels, where EU commissars warn citizens that they intend to shut down social media during times of civil unrest the moment they spot what they've judged to be, quote, hateful content. Or to this very country, where police have carried out raids against citizens suspected of posting anti-feminist comments online as part of, quote, combating misogyny on the internet, a day of action. I look to Sweden, where 2 weeks ago the government convicted a Christian activist for participating in Koran burnings that resulted in his friend's murder. And as the judge in his case chillingly noted, Sweden's laws to supposedly protect free expression do not, in fact, grant, and I'm quoting, a free pass to do or say anything without risking offending the group that holds that belief. And perhaps most concerningly, I look to our very dear friends, the United Kingdom, where the backslide away from conscience rights has placed the basic liberties of religious Britons in particular in the crosshairs. A little over 2 years ago, the British government charged Adam Smith Connor, a 51-year-old physiotherapist and an Army veteran, with the heinous crime of standing 50 meters from an abortion clinic and silently praying for 3 minutes. Not obstructing anyone, not interacting with anyone, just silently praying on his own. And after British law enforcement spotted him and demanded to know what he was praying for, Adam replied simply, it was on behalf of the unborn son he and his former girlfriend had aborted years before. Now, the officers were not moved. Adam was found guilty of breaking the government's new buffer zones law, which criminalizes silent prayer and other actions that could influence a person's decision within 200 meters of an abortion facility. He was sentenced to pay thousands of pounds in legal costs to the prosecution. Now, I wish I could say that this was a fluke, a one-off crazy example of a badly written law being enacted against a single person. But no, this last October, just a few months ago, the Scottish government began distributing letters to citizens whose houses lay within so-called safe access zones, warning them that even private prayer within their own homes may amount to breaking the law. Naturally, the government urged readers to report any fellow citizens suspected guilty of thought crime. In Britain and across Europe, free speech, I fear, is in retreat. And in the interest of comedy, my friends, but also in the interest of truth, I will admit that sometimes the loudest voices for censorship have come not from within Europe, but from within my own country, where the prior administration threatened and bullied social media companies to censor so-called misinformation. Misinformation like, for example, the idea that coronavirus had likely leaked from a laboratory in China. Our own government encouraged private companies to silence people who dared to utter what turned out to be an obvious truth. So I come here today not just with an observation, but with an offer. And just as the Biden administration seemed desperate to silence people for speaking their minds, so the Trump administration will do precisely the opposite, and I hope that we can work together on that. In Washington, there is a new sheriff in town, and under Donald Trump's leadership, we may disagree with your views, but we will fight to defend your right to offer it in the public square, agree or disagree.
Going forward, it will be interesting to see which other leaders come out to explicitly align with these values, even if it may not be convenient for their political party and beliefs. It will also be interesting to see what moves President Trump makes when it comes to rolling back many of the decisions made by the Biden administration surrounding these issues. Let us know what you think about the concerns raised by Vance in the comment section below. And remember to like and subscribe for more content from us.